Hi, everyone. Welcome to my presentation. Just as a short reintroduction of myself, my name is Ty, and I am a third-year doctoral student here in the Couple and Family Therapy program. So because I want to eventually gain a position as a professor in a master's level training program, I decided to develop a course and my module in the way I would want to implement a course to my own students. So the course that I will be covering today is Implementing Marriage and Family Therapy Interventions in Practice. This is similar to the micro counseling skills course here that master's level counselor students take. So in this class, students are really learning the basic skills. So how to initiate dialogue with the client, how to properly fill out paperwork, how to ask questions, the format of asking questions, things of that nature. And so for the particular module that I'll be covering, it goes into intake interviews, covering opening paperwork, the informed consent document, and the different types of questions that are utilized in the therapy process. So here is one of the biggest challenges that I had to face. Well, not face, but that I came into contact with was trying to figure out what I wanted students to take from the course that they could effectively take from an online course. I am definitely open to any feedback from anyone who knows how to reach mental health training professionals in an online setting, but I do have the bias that I think face-to-face interaction is better for that type of training environment. I think it allows the instructor to get a good feel of the students. It allows the students to get a good feel for each other. And it really allows relationships to develop. And so that is my bias. I think how students treat each other can kind of be how they would treat their clients. And I would like to see that in person. And so what this course is it's not completely online. Just as we show up every month to Zoom in and interact with each other, I have it set up so that students will Zoom in every week and they will interact with each other, but they will also be responsible for interacting with each other outside of the courses. And so certain tasks or assignments that they have will call for them to pair up, and you'll actually see that as I go down, but certain assignments will call for them to pair up outside and make recordings for them to bring back and share with the class, or as another assignment, I have them taking shifts in the quote-unquote clinic, the training clinic that is on campus, and they'll be conducting intake interviews over the phone and sometimes face-to-face. And so you'll see that you may kind of as we go along. This is really, really text-heavy for me, just looking at this document. And that was the other thing that I was thinking about when it came to having to present different topics of this module. Generally, when you're doing an online course, PowerPoints are involved, Prezis are involved, something to give students a visual of what is happening and what they should be learning. And that actually is completely against my style of teaching and against my style of learning. And so that was another challenge in trying to figure out what type of information to place on the PowerPoint. And I believe I may not have the copy in here. Oh, I might actually have the copy in here. But that was one of the hardest things for me because I don't do PowerPoints. In the class that I TA in now, doing PowerPoints is one of the hardest things because I would rather have a discussion. But I do know that when you're in an online setting, students kind of need more to take away from it. I actually did receive that type of advice from one of my professors here, is that when you're kind of embarking on an online course, you have to remember that students have to stay engaged in some form or fashion. And PowerPoint presentations, Prezis, all things of that nature are what engages them. And so I'm kind of in a process of trying to still stay kind of true to my teaching style, but also learn how to accommodate others in that sense. So the students in my course, my module, this is just a really, really basic outline of what they'll be assessed on, and can go through here and find all the heavy stuff that really, really count. And so the chunks and bridges, I would definitely want someone after this course to kind of share with me how they process this and how they did this. Because for me, if you can see this, I essentially placed my entire lecture. So I just wrote it how I would say it to students, which is really helpful in a sense, because if I were to take these and try to transfer it to a PowerPoint, I know that I could have the general topics the overhead topics that I would want to cover, and then what I would want to discuss in a class. So that actually worked for me. Doing something like this worked for me. It's just I didn't know if I was doing this appropriately. Were other students finding other ways to do this? And so that's kind of where this was at for me. Is my PowerPoint attached to this? Oh, and this is still all the text that I have just for completing chunks and bridges. So one of the things that has come up in our discussions is accommodating students in certain manners, and so people who read in chunks and scanners, and accommodating different learning styles and things of that nature. And I really had a question about that, because in doing a PowerPoint, I have no issue. This is still my thing. In doing a PowerPoint, I don't have my PowerPoint attached to this one. I do not have an issue with making sure I put lecture notes underneath it, having the voice recording over it. I have no issue with that. But I have found that it doesn't seem as if on our level, so the master's level, the doctoral level, that professors really take into account our different learning styles. So at the graduate level, are professors really concerned about students that do not have diagnosable issues? That's something that kept coming up for me and trying to figure out how to accommodate students. Because the one thing I have in that is that, if things happen, I'm okay with things occurring and a student is having an issue with the assignment, that I'm okay with. But to just simply accommodate a graduate student that is known for scanning as opposed to reading the entire article, I find that really hard to reconcile with. And so again, I am very open to learning how students that intend to teach on the graduate level, how do you work with that, especially in the case of students with no diagnosable issues. Another challenge that I had putting this together is in trying to make sure that I incorporated enough examples. And so one of the topics my students will have to cover in this module is case notes, the different formatting of case notes, how they complete them, what the different acronyms stand for. They will have to write a case note for a case they observe in the clinic. And I wanted to know if I had just provided enough examples, because it seems to me in a classroom setting, you can discuss it. You can always gauge right then if a student has it. But I am slightly concerned that students may not necessarily get it in an online setting, and they won't necessarily speak up about it. And so I did try to include different examples. And so this is for an opening case note, one of the notes that you would do as soon as the session opens. And I kind of describe what they are to the students, and then walk a student what an example looks like, describe what comes next in the caseload, and then walk them through what it looks like and how they would write it. And so I was kind of trying to figure out, is that enough? And I guess in this presentation, you can tell I'm still just not 100% convinced. I'm not sold on completing a marriage and family therapy course in an online setting, just because I think there's just so much more richness in having that face-to-face interaction and having students there with their cohort members. But like I said, I'm definitely open to feedback. I will be teaching in the fall, but it will be a face-to-face class. So that is kind of something that I am more comfortable with. But because this is something that takes me out my comfort zone, I really would like to hear feedback from others, get some tips from others, and how they have worked in an online setting with students. If you have any questions about this, and say, I know this is just a lot of information, but please just ask me. I'm definitely an open book. And thank you.